Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, a podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing Love is Blind. I know I said that I was going to be taking a break and going to the 90-day universe again because it's been a minute, but I'm so close. I can taste. I am catching up, y'all. I have just finished, I think, episode 10, so I'm getting there, and I'm just plowing through at this point. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just finish up Love is Blind as much as possible. And hopefully maybe by the end of the week, we can get back to some 90-day. So let's just get into it. So I don't know how we're going to be doing this episode, if we're going to have more than one Love is Blind episode in one of my episodes. So we're just going to kind of ride the wave and see where we get to. But let's just jump right in. So episode 7, season 7, Truth Bombs. So Ramses and Marissa, we see them on a yacht. She says she loves boats, kind of just goes back to her marine days. And so this might be a little bit of a break, but hopefully I finished up with Ramses and Marissa properly, so it's not too weird. But so we're with Tim and Alex, and he says that he's willing to keep exploring this with her. And she says, she's willing to listen more, and they're supposed to be going ATVing together, so they kind of need to see what's going to happen next after that. So then we have Tyler and Ashley, and they're going camel riding, and they talk about family traditions, creating new traditions with potential children within their own family, and kind of what that will look like for them. Then we have Nick and Hannah, and they're going bungee jumping. They seem to have a lot of fun with it, and Nick says, "I will never do that again." And he says, "Hopefully I can still have kids after this." Like, Jesus. And then she gets weak in the knees, or feels weak in the knees after doing bungee jumping, which is the same feeling she gets when they are in love, quote unquote. So Monica talks to Steven about the actions behind the words. Kind of the biggest conversation, or the biggest topic here, is that he said that I would buy you flowers and do that. And she's like, "Where are my flowers at?" And then I said, "Girl, you can buy yourself flowers, okay? You don't need this man to buy you flowers." I was actually getting really annoyed by constantly hearing her talk about flowers, flowers, flowers. "Oh, look, those are flowers. See, those are flowers. I want those flowers. I like these flowers." It was getting a little bit annoying. And it's like, okay, girl, shut up about flowers. Seriously. But I do understand what she's saying here about having the actions behind the words. And she says, her love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts. And Steven says that he's like, "Yeah, I know I said that." I think he kind of comes up with these excuses as to why he can't do certain things. And honestly, like, a gift doesn't have to be a big extravagant thing. It could be something small. It's just the gifts or the acts of service. The gifts could be really small. It's the intention behind it. And then they kind of talk about, she kind of says, like, "I love to have like or said, like, I can't always go out there and get you the Kate Spade bag or something." And she says, "I don't want the Kate Spade bag." And a Louis Vuitton would be better, but she uses like the acronym. And he's like, "I never heard of that before." She's like, "You never heard of Louis Vuitton?" And he's like, "No, I've never heard of Louis Vuitton before." Wow. What rock have you been living under that you've never heard of a Louis Vuitton? Or just heard of Louis Vuitton? What? I don't own a Louis Vuitton, but at least I know what a Louis Vuitton is, But I do find, though, she is a little materialistic. She kind of says that she's not or whatever, but to me, for you to throw out to this man who, yes, is your fiance, but you just met, "You can buy me a Louis Vuitton?" Girl. Yikes. But he says that I don't want to disappoint. But, it is a huge decision. And all of a sudden, we're talking about I don't want to disappoint you in terms of gifts or acts of service or stuff like that, or words of affirmation. But then we turn to it's a huge decision talking about the marriage. And she's like, whoa, like what? So she asks him like to clarify, what do you mean it's a big decision? And he says, well, the marriage. And we just have this confusing conversation about that, whether or not he's second guessing things. He claims that he's not. She thinks that he is. I mean, again, I can understand why she thinks he is, because how did we get from one conversation to this conversation? Like, that's interesting to her. And she's like, it feels like you're second guessing. And he says he doesn't want to feel forced. My guy, you came on this show knowing what's going to happen. No one forced you. If you didn't want to be on, or you didn't want to be married yet, or you didn't like the speed of this process, you didn't need to sign up for it. That makes me think that you came on here for the clout than the wife. So we'll talk more about Steven a little later. So we got ATVing with Tim and Alex. And they go over this bridge that's really high up and really narrow and really scary. And I don't think so. So he tells her that he still loves her, but let's leave that there in the past. It is what it is. And let's start a new page. So they're going to try to make this work. And he is going to go back to the hotel room and we're going to be just fine. We're going to be fine. So we got another group hang. Steven is like, you got to ride a camel? I want to ride a camel. And Alex tells the ladies about what happened with her and Tim. But then it gets interrupted by fireworks. Now, this is important. So Monica wants to go watch the fireworks. And she asks Steven, oh, can you come with me and watch the fireworks? But him and Garrett are having a conversation of some sort. And he's like, in a minute. Well, he never does come and see the fireworks with her because he's having this deep conversation with Garrett. That's what he says. After it's done, she kind of goes back to him and she's like, wow, that was so romantic, wasn't it? So romantic. Thanks for coming, babe. Now, passive aggressive, but I definitely understand. I think I would probably have done the same thing in the moment. Not saying it's right, but that's what's up. Then he comes by to her because he can tell, like, oh shit, I'm in the doghouse. I need to kind of do better. You need something? You need a drink? I'm going to get that drink for you. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. So he's clearly, trying to make it better. And Steven then explains to both her and Taylor this, again, another weird conversation, another word salad of a conversation. But we're going to break it down as much as possible because this was kind of where I decided, oh, I'm out on Steven. There's something not right with him. I'm so sorry that I got bamboozled, because I did. We'll talk about it. I'm sure a lot of us know already. But I'm just trying to say, I got bamboozled. Because I'm like, what is this conversation and why are we having it? So he says to them that, me and Garrett having this moment where we were having a serious conversation or whatever, didn't want to interrupt that for fireworks. Okay, fine. I mean, not great, but because you're here to hang with everybody else, but at the end of the day, you're still here to connect with your partner. So, but whatever, that's fine. Then he starts talking about, we just got to make sure there's not going to be any home wreckers, because you come on a show like this, like, people are just going to want to slide into your DMs and shit like that. And you potentially can get your dick sucked by just a random person. And I'm sitting here being like, wait. How did we get from fireworks to conversation with Garrett that couldn't be interrupted for fireworks to home wreckers and dick sucking? How did we get here? I'm so confused. So, to me, it feels like he's hoping that a woman is going to come slide into his DMs and want to suck his dick, I guess. I don't know. Because again, it kind of makes me think that, because when I'm seeing him constantly talking about how much he can get hard, how quickly he can get hard, how much he wants to have sex and all of this, that I feel like you're pitching your OnlyFans or something, or you're pitching yourself out there for women who maybe want to take a bite. You know what I mean? It's weird. So we'll leave that there for now. We will be circling back to that in a little bit. So now we're leaving Cabo, going back to reality. Of course, we have Nick and Vanessa here to tell us we're getting our phones back and shit like that, whatever. And we're gonna be living together, and blah blah blah. So the apartments are quite nice. They're simple. They're nothing to go home about or anything like that. But it's nice. It's comfortable. It's spacious enough for two people. It's great. Hannah and Nick talk about what they can do, within the household and stuff like that. And she's like, listen, I'm more mature, okay? And at least I'm more emotionally intelligent and just intelligent. She's so full of herself that I can't wait to talk about when her parents knock her down a few pegs. In the nicest way possible, but they do. Monica, I wrote here, needs to shut up about the flowers because I feel like we've talked about flowers about 30 times in the space of this episode. And I said, there's your orchid, there's your flower, now shut up. Because there's I think it was a purple orchid in the apartment. So I'm like, there's your orchid. Anyway, or your flower. So Garrett and Taylor are looking at each other's social medias, nothing too crazy. She seems to be fine with it. He loves fish so much that he literally is probably on every fish page possible on Facebook. So there's nothing really much here to worry about. He's like, or I think one of them says, you're the best catch of them all. Get it? Get it? Catch fish? Get it? Oh God. So then Tim doesn't like to cuddle. He's not a cuddly person. He just wants to be able to sleep. He says he sweats in his sleep. No one wants that. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. I do. Anyway, I couldn't sleep and cuddle. I couldn't do it. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Let me sleep in peace. Anyway, so Marissa. She wants to have a black wedding, or she wants people coming in black and she's going to be in white. And then I literally thought it's a nice day for a white wedding. It's literally what I was thinking about, because black and then she's in white and whatever. So she loves the color black, but I'm sorry to be a nitpicker, but black is not a color. It is a shade. Black, gray, white. I think brown too. Isn't brown considered a shade? I might be wrong with brown, but I know for a fact black, white, gray are not colors. They are shades. Different. That's your favorite shade. So it's not a color. But anyway. So Taylor and Garrett are going to Fredericksburg to meet his parents. We have Don, I think's his mom's name. We have Randy is his dad's name. Deanna's his sister. Michaela and Tristan, who are his niece and nephew. Tristan, y'all, with a Y, not an I. Tristan. It's Tristan. Anyway, Taylor's parents didn't want to participate necessarily in all this because I don't think they were really for this whole process, which is okay. But they know how important this is to him, so they will go along with this. And, Taylor's parents, I'm getting confused. Taylor's parents don't want to participate, but they will do this because they do want to meet him, get their eyes on him. There we go. That's it. So that's, she's at least getting that. I think we will see her mom, but we won't see her dad because he doesn't want to be on camera. But they will at least meet. So we don't have to see it. As long as they're meeting, it's fine. We don't have to see everything. So it's okay. They say it is so fast. But they're going to be doing what needs to be done. She says, they are taking this kind of process day by day because it is moving so fast. And I think Chris' mom has reservations. She says, we check in on each other. And ultimately, what's best for him at the end of the day is what's going to be best for me, what's going to be best for us. So I think they're handling this as best as they can. And I think as hard as it's going to be for the family to catch up to this, just let them do as they will, and it'll all work out, hopefully. Ramses, we see him cooking. And she's texting him the whole time as he's doing so, but she wasn't home. And she comes in and he's like, yeah, you've been texting me dirty stuff all the way here. She's like, oh my God, you weren't supposed to say that out loud. Because we don't know because they're having sex, apparently. But anyway, she apparently lives in Baltimore. And I'm not going to sing, y'all. I'm not going to do it. Good morning, Baltimore. Okay, I'm fine. It's fine. It's okay. So, but anyway, she lives in Baltimore, and she also does classes in Baltimore. So she's saying that the travel is horrific from DC to Baltimore. I'm not sure how far that is, but she says it's about 2 hours. I'm assuming 2 hours one way, that's horrific. And she says he's cooking, and once the cooking is done and they're eating, she says, well, the food is it's a little raw. She says that the noodles there's al dente and then there's holy shit al dente, and his is the holy shit al dente. So he didn't really cook it all the way through. I did wonder, did you test it? You have to check your noodles before you say they're cooked, just to be sure that they're cooked. But anyways, they talk about the wedding officiant and kind of what they kind of both maybe expect to have as their officiant. She wants a woman. So no cis hetero males. Okay. And she says she's good with having a spiritual officiant, and he seems okay with that. Not sure how his mom's going to take it because she is very religious. So I think she would prefer to see a religious officiant. But at the end of the day, this is not her wedding. This is their wedding. And she is Mormon, apparently. I did not know this. Did we know this before? I don't know if you ever heard about this, but she's Mormon. So I think under those circumstances, I think he's Christian of some sort. I think a spiritual officiant will be fine. She says, I don't hate religion, but she does want, she wants no part of that in her wedding, which I think is, I get it. But then the big part of this conversation was this one, and I had feelings, I have issues, I have it all. They talk about the military for her, and she says that, what they kind of do in other countries, obviously she has a problem with, but in the end of the day, she does support the military. That's her whole life is military. She was a military brat. Like that's an army brat, to the right term to use. This has been really her whole life. She's always lived on a base. She's, as a kid, she's done it as an adult. Like this is her life. So obviously, just generally speaking, she's going to support something that she's known her whole life. And she does think that we need it at this point because we have done some fuck shit in other countries. So we don't want to be in a vulnerable state. So you do need to have some form of military. And he says, I don't know if I really agree with that. I don't remember where he's from. I think he's in Venezuela. So he does have a little bit of an issue with what the States has kind of done to Venezuela or whichever country he is from. Again, I think he said Venezuela, but I could be wrong. And he kind of has a problem with that just from his own experiences, from what his country has dealt with. And he says, you have to sign up for it. Like you make a choice to sign up for something that maybe isn't very beneficial. You're not being forced into the military as you would have been in much earlier years. But that is what people do. This is the country. This is how the country operates. Every country is different, mind you, but this is how the country operates. This is how Canada operates as well. So it's just there's nothing wrong with someone wanting to do that. I know there's the whole you know, patriotism alongside that, but everyone has their reasons for doing something, and some people just really want to fight for their country, and there's nothing wrong with that, no matter how you may feel about something. People are doing something that most people wouldn't want to do. Um, it's not an easy thing to do, I'm sure. I can only speak as a person who's not been through this, but I'm sure there's some not so easy decisions that need to be made, and some things that people will find really difficult to live with. But that is a choice that they've made. Now, what she does say here that I do agree with her on is that she says maybe because you do have a lot of young people going in and enlisting, you're enlisting at 18, you have really no clue what you're getting yourself into. Maybe there needs to be more understanding from an 18-year-old's perspective what you're getting yourself into. I 1,000% agree with that. Um, but she also does say when you are signing up young under how things are now, you don't fully understand what you're getting yourself into. But would she change that decision? No, she wouldn't. Um, but she does say to him, I'm feeling a little bit judged right now because this is a part of my life. This is who I am. She explains to him here that I've lived on base since I was 2. Like, this is what I know. And I'm feeling judged for that. And that's the problem I have here is you can have your views and you're entitled to your views as she's entitled to hers. But to literally sit there and judge her for the decision that she's made, you're not only judging her, but you're also judging just the group of people who are doing something that most people wouldn't even dream to do. And doing the stuff that is, whether you agree or disagree, are things that, like, is tough to do, and it creates and gives the freedoms that we now know today. Now, I think a lot of us have been a lot more educated in the war in Afghanistan post 9/11. I think that's a war that could have been avoided. Absolutely. Do I understand a country going in and defending themselves against a threat? Yes. But I'm just saying, I think we've been very much educated as to the war in Afghanistan. And it's frustrating because, I mean, we talk about the lives lost in Afghanistan on all levels. But then also is people we've lost here in my country as well for peacemaking purposes going to that war. But that's just we've been educated. But I'm going to go further back here. World War One, World War Two, War of 1812, war, whatever, whatever war that, goes back in time here that has created and given us the freedoms that we didn't have before. For you to sit there and say to someone who this means a lot to them, and other people who are going to watch the show where that means a lot to them, and whether you're a part of it, as you as a person a part of it, or have family a part of it. I don't have family a part of it, but it means a lot to me to know that there were people willing to sacrifice themselves to do something that I don't think I could have ever done. So for you to sit here and judge someone for that is so just incorrect, wrong, whether you agree with it or not. A lot of that has given people the lives and the freedoms that they now have as a country as a whole that we just didn't have before. So I have huge problem with him judging her for something that he doesn't need to judge her for. You have your views and that is okay. You can have your thoughts and your feelings on it and that is okay. Whether someone, we don't have to agree with it and that's okay. But remember, we don't always have to agree with someone's opinions. But for you to literally just be like, well, I probably wouldn't have said yes to you or proposed to you if you were still in the Marines. That's really fucked. And really just really mean. But she says to him, I was thinking about signing up for the reserves, she didn't end up doing it because she didn't want to be a part of that the atmosphere anymore. But she did contemplate going into the reserves, and she says, if I did, like, you probably would have not even gone much further with me. And he admits, yeah, I wouldn't have. And it's just, I don't, personally, for me, as a person who is not a part of the military, whatever section of the military you're a part of, as a person who's not a part of that, I have huge issues with what he said here. So I can only imagine how that makes her feel. That's a horrible thing to say to somebody. But that's that. That's the end of episode 7. So we are going to do the next episode in this episode. So we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we will jump in with episode 8. And I am back. So let's jump in with episode 8, titled Dirty Laundry. So we got Steven and Monica at a flower shop, and she's very excited because flowers, y'all, flowers. And we're basically going to be kind of doing designs with the flattened out flowers. And Monica's dad does not want to be on camera. He doesn't want to be involved in any of this. And you know what? I think that's a sign. But he does want to meet Steven, so at least that. And he does also want to walk her down the aisle. I guess he just doesn't want the focus on him per se. So that's kind of the next best thing. So he does want to be involved. I mean, I think he shouldn't be, but anyways. So that's that. We got Hannah and Nick. And we found out here that he lives at his parents' house. Shit. He's 28 years. I mean, I don't have an issue with someone living at home. I live at home. It is what it is. Times are tough. It is what it is. And he's a real estate agent, probably getting his footing and stuff like that. It's really hard industry. So I don't have an issue with him living at home, but I know there will be an issue with him living at home for Hannah. So yikes. So they go to see his place. His parents are not there yet. She will meet them later. His mom is very Catholic, y'all. She has the candles lit everywhere, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the living room, everywhere. Like we all know a Catholics out there. We know a candle that symbolizes Catholicism when we see one. Because I saw these candles, I'm like, oh, that unlocked a memory that I didn't need, but they're there. So she's very Catholic. And Hannah's not. So this is going to be interesting, but we do meet his cat named, I think it's Peaky or Pinky or whatever. Then we go to the basement where he lives, and he shows her his first stuffed animal, whose name is Buffy. So then I thought, so did you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer like everyone else did in the 90s and early aughts? Because anytime I hear the name Buffy, I'm like, that's not a name we all just threw out there one day. Let's be real. Buffy is very unique to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I'm like, you were a Buffy fan. And that gives you points with me. That really does. Nonetheless, he would have been really young though, because he's 28, I'm 33, and I watched Buffy when I was younger. But anyway, so he said he's lived in the basement for about 2 years. And he says, let's just move on right in here. And she's like, yeah, no, we're going to move into my apartment because I don't want to live here with your parents. I think that's fair. Ramses is meeting Marissa's friends. And Brenda? That one there, Brenda, she looked terrified. She wanted to cry the whole time. It was weird. But they talk about the whole military conversation. And I don't know if both of them have been in the military, or all three. I think it was 3 friends. I don't think all 3 of them were in the military, but one of them was. So when they're having this conversation, her friends are like, yikes. And they do ask him, like, if she wanted to go back, like, would you divorce her? And he straight up says yes. And her friends are like, so wait, just so I'm clear, you will divorce her just because she wants to go back into the Marines and you're going to have a problem with that? I just want to be clear. Oh, sorry. She's not in the Marines, guys. She's in the Navy. I keep saying the Marines. I knew that was incorrect. Navy. She was in the Navy. So I'm just like, I agree. Because, like, that's such a stupid reason to divorce somebody. And her friends were like, this was a part of her life. And and I know I did, because again, I don't have a lot of understanding experience with this because, again, I'm not American. But from what I kind of understood from listening to 90 Day Cray Cray to talk about it, was that I think a lot of, and I think Marissa did mention this as well, so I think that's probably why I forgot this, that a lot of people in the military are conservative. So he then, I guess, purports military to MAGA, which, okay, fine, especially because she says that they're very conservative. But let's not forget here, I don't see an issue with a military being 80, even 90% Republican or conservative. I don't see the issue with that. The issue with MAGA, or Make America Great Again, is that is something that a very idiotic Oompa Loompa troped during his first campaign season. So that has nothing to do with what the military stands for. And I think it's actually really problematic for him to put those two things together. I think a lot of people who are mega supporters or whatever are people who are a part of the 1% ish. I'm just using that as I know that's not the percentage. I'm sure it's higher than that. But you're the quote unquote 1% that are also QAnon believers. And I'm going to say this straight up right now. QAnon believers are not in the military. I'm just saying that right now. They're doing their own thing. It's nicely put. They're not in the military. No. I mean, I'm sure there are some. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the general are not. Because I feel like you need to pass a psychology test. And I feel like a lot of those people are not going to. I'm just saying. So I hear what he is saying, but I think it is problematic to put MAGA into that. Because that just, I think it's just disrespectful. Straight up. I think it's very disrespectful for what the military is supposed to be. I'm not saying the military is great. I'm not saying they're perfect. Trust me, they're not. But I'm just saying, like, I think that's really disrespectful for what the military is supposed to stand for and what it's supposed to do. So I don't particularly like that. I think he's very ill-informed or misinformed. And again, you're entitled to your opinions, but I think your opinions should also not be problematic as well. But with that said, they do kind of talk about kids and they kind of bring this up and say, listen, you have your views on the military. She has her views on the military. So how is that going to work for children? Because she's going to have her views, you're going to have yours, and they're clashing. So he says, like, he would, tell his kids kind of, I guess, to kind of mirror his views on the military. But she also says, listen, if my kids want to enlist, like, I'm going to support them on that. And I would hope that Ramses would also support them on that. And he says at the end of the day, it is their choice. They can do as they want. They're adults. They can do what they want. But, like, my question is, the way you're so quick to divorce your wife because she is potentially may want to enlist again or sign up for the reserves or whatever, like, the way you're so quick on that, are you quick to disown your kids because they're doing something that you don't agree with? That's the question. And I think that's the part that I was kind of hoping for from him. But he kind of says, like, I'll love my kids and blah, blah, blah. Sure. But where is that same energy with your wife? There should still be that unconditional love with your wife the way there is that very different, but that same kind of unconditional love with your kids. So that's what I mean. Like, you should be able to love the person unconditionally. And something like them wanting to do what they view as their civil duty is kind of incorrect and I find wrong. And it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth with him after this. Um, so then Tim and Alex are cooking and they're talking and he's meeting her family and her dad does not know, as we kind of know, that they are supposed to be getting married. So he's going to be talking to her dad separately to basically ask for her hand in marriage. So we have her brothers and her parents are here, and her dad is kind of maybe a little bit uneasy about this. And um, he comes back in because he was outside doing the cooking, and he kind of introduces himself here and whatever. So they talk about how they align. And they talk about the argument very briefly. They don't go into a lot of details. And the food he cooked looked really good. And they connect, Tim and her dad connect on the fact that they were both born in England. So they're kind of connecting on that. I think they're also both sports people. So I think they connected on that too. I don't remember. But then the conversation kind of about what happened between Tim and Alex in terms of the proposal. So I think at this point, Alex and everyone else has kind of left, and it's just him and her dad. And he reads the letter to him, about what he read to Alex in the proposal. And he says that her dad says, she's my baby girl. We just met, but I believe you. I believe in you, and I believe your words. And he says that, you're my son. I see you as my son, or I accept you as my son. And for me, that's really got me. I got really emotional actually watching this. I don't know really why. I got a little emotional because I do relate with Alex, with her dad having MS. So I think that's kind of maybe where it came from for me. And kind of saying, he now as mobile, and even his speech has been affected, and it got me because I'm like, I get it, I understand, and it made me really sad. Not the right word to use, but just emotional, I guess, because I totally get it. Um, she's very protective of her dad, and I get it. So then we're with Taylor and Garrett at her apartment, and she live in the basement of her friend's house, and she only has protein shakes and wine in her fridge. I guess she's never really home. And they are not aligned on kind of where they will, I think, live after this whole process. And he would rather live in Fredericksburg, and she would rather live in San Diego. Well, then, you'd be on the same side of the planet. So there's that. So then they're going to have that conversation as to where they will live. So Stephen, we find out, lost his job. And, he kind of feeling a little bit embarrassed by it, I think a little bit, but she says, listen, I got your back. We're going to be fine. It's fine. And yeah. And then they start talking about sex a little bit here, and they talk about the fact that he likes to constantly, quote unquote, accidentally stick his sword into her butt. And if you get that reference, you're my peeps. There was back in the day, when people would still film people getting their some teeth pulled, and there was a sword in my arm. That was my favorite video. But anyways, I'm just talking at my ass. It's fine. But I wrote here, he really loves sex. Like, he's obsessed with sex. But he says he's obsessed with her vagina, which means, y'all, that means, because he's so obsessed with her vagina, he goes down, y'all. And he goes down forever. Like, he's forever. Like, forever. So yeah, he says, take the lead on how ready you are with stuff, um and they kind of say, so what about anal? What about that? Is that a possibility? And this conversation was great. The last great conversation we're ever going to get. So then we see Hannah cleaning a lot. She seems to be kind of a clean freak. She kind of is like the dad in Full House. She loves to clean. Anyway, she would love if he could kind of take the trash out without her asking him to. She vacuums every day, she says, which is a lot. He kind of would do it every 2 weeks, which I think is not enough. I think a week is a happy medium to dust. She says she dusts once a week. That's a lot. Twice a week in my house. She does deep cleaning every Sunday, cleaning the walls, the baseboard, stuff like that, which is a lot. They do talk about splitting the bills, the rent and stuff like that. But then we do find out that he is on his parents' car insurance. And she says, are you going to stay on their insurance? Are you going to come back? Are you going to come on to my insurance? And they also say, like, are you going to pay your own insurance? Because, because he's on his parents' insurance, but he doesn't actually, like, pay. He's also on his parents' phone bill, and he doesn't pay that either. And he says, well, I mean, if they want to keep paying, I'm like, why would I tell them not to? Because you're grown. My God, you're grown. Like, I don't have a problem with him being on his parents' stuff, but you should be contributing to that in some sense. So it's, yeah. And then we kind of have this conversation about stocks because he doesn't know shit about stocks. I mean, I know generally speaking what stocks are, and I know how they operate, and I know how it works, but not everyone is as financially intelligent, I guess, on everything having to do with stocks. I do understand his reservation, but what I didn't understand is that he doesn't realize that there are low risk stocks and then there are high risk stocks. You do not have to contribute to a high risk one. You can contribute to a low risk one. So it's like, okay, you could have the general knowledge of what a stock is and what you can invest in. And she does say, like, even your 401k, have you turned that into a mutual fund of some sort or something like that? And he looks at her like he doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. I don't even think he has a 401k. Let's be real. So anyway, then we are meeting Dixon, who's Ashley's dad, and they go through all of the things that we normally do. And he says that Ashley, be gone. Then we talk to this man, and we talk like men. And I'm like, what does that mean? But he asks, can I have your daughter's hand in marriage? And he says, well, of course, because she chose you. You got my blessing, but this is her decision, And he says, this is my one and only daughter. Don't play. Don't play with her. Okay. Then we got ominous music. And this is where I will never feel the same way about Steven. Oh, everyone, the men suck. Men just have to ruin everything. So we see both Monica and Taylor, and Monica looks really upset. Something has clearly happened. Steven must have done something. And we kind of learn about something having to do with a sleep test. And we'll get a little more clarity on that. But apparently, Steven had to do a sleep test the night before. Did he really do the sleep test? I'm like, wait, then where was he? Well, Steven is here. We do see him. We're kind of hearing about texts that have kind of fetish undertones, or maybe not even undertones, maybe just overtones. I don't know, the opposite of undertones are. They're just out there in your face kind of thing. I'm like, wait, what is happening? And she says, why did you do this? Were you actually at the sleep test? He says, yes, he was. She said, well, I don't believe that. And he says, well, I don't think there's really anything that I could say that you believe. Not that I'm saying you should, but I'm just saying that there's really nothing I'm going to say that you're going to believe at this point. But To break it down so this makes sense. Apparently, he was texting a woman. I don't know what form, but he was texting a woman, and he was texting her fetish-like stuff. It was dirty, dirty. And apparently, this conversation was going from the day before into the current day. And it kind of just got more suggestive and more suggestive as the hours went by. And he says that those messages that they didn't happen until because of the sleep study, and I was texting her during the sleep study. And he's like, "You said that to her this morning." Well then, so the grand scheme of things is he is texting naughty things to a woman that is not his fiance. So she's like, "Well, can I see the text messages then? Because if you're claiming that these messages were today, then show me the proof of that." He says, "Well, I deleted the messages." Like, "Well, yeah, of course you did, because you want to." I'm sorry. A man who's deleting messages is trying to cover his ass. And I don't fucking think so. So he said, "I don't remember texting her today. Doesn't matter if you do or you don't. You do. You know you did, but you want to save face, and that's fine." But he's like, "I'm gonna go. I'm sorry I wasted your time. I'm sorry for all this, blah, blah, blah." And she says, "That's so fucking selfish, because you came on the show claiming you have these intentions of getting married to somebody, but clearly you never had those intentions, and you wasted my time. You wasted producer's time. You wasted everyone's time here. So that's really selfish of you." But she says, "Well, before you go, can you please Venmo me the money that I provided you since you've lost your job? Like, I'm not going to support you when you're doing this shit, and I'm done." She's like, "You're going to do that right here in front of me before you leave." So he Venmos her the money while he's there in front of her face. And he's like, "There you go, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, she's grossed out at this point. She has now officially gotten the ick. She said, "You're laying in a sleep test bed, texting this other girl. Like, you're gross. This is disgusting. Like, he probably like got off on that. Like, let's be real here. This is gross." And he says, like, "I'm sorry." This is where he says, "I shouldn't have been on the show." And she says that you're being selfish. And he says, "I'm sorry. I'll leave you alone now." And he leaves. And just immediately as he leaves, Taylor and Garrett just come in and just support her. It's the end of that. They just are there for her through this. And but yeah, that's it for this episode. Steven, my guy, you've went and fucked up. I thought differently of you, man. But since we've lost a couple here and we're clearly not going to see them go to the altar, we're now down, as of this episode, y'all, we're down to now 5 couples. And I'm going to go back and see, what did I say about Monica and Steven? Did I say that they were going to make it? I did say that they were going to make it, so I got that wrong. Yay. Got that so wrong. So there's that. But that is it for this episode. So the next episode we're going to see if I can get a recording done before for the end of the day, but we'll see. If not, you'll get the next episode for Love is Blind on Thursday. But if I'm able to do end of the day, the next episode you're going to get is going to be the Sister Wives episode. We do have Letitia back for that, so there's that. I didn't do in the preamble, but just so people are aware, if you do listen to Sister Wives, just so you're aware, at the end, it's at the very end, we do talk a little B90, we talk a little toe, we talk a little Life After Lockup as well, which is obviously something I don't cover. And we do talk very briefly. We do talk a little moments, but it's very brief. So just in case you haven't watched the most recent episodes, you're aware. And it is at the end though, so you can stop once the Sister Wives recap is started, and you can leave it at that. So, but that's it. That's the end of this episode. I'm plowing through Love is Blind and I'm happy. Because I'm on episode 10 currently, and I'm like, I got one more to go. Like I'm getting there, so I'm catching up to everybody, so I'm happy. But that's it. That's the end of this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there. And you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.